Yes, Your Lordship has indicated regarding the board appointing the chairperson earlier. We have the Fiscal Act. I realize it's part of the bundle of exhibits for the other document, which have not been submitted yet. And it provides under Section 6 of the Fiscal Act, subsection 6.
You see, I don't want you to make submissions now. All
Yes.
that I highlighted is simply that I want evidence on factual issues. That's all I want.
Yes, Your Lordship.
How the appointment must take place, what the law requires. You see, this testimony that he was, it helps me nothing at all.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Okay. All that I don't want you to make submission. I want you to assist your witness to lead evidence.
Okay. All right. You had referred to your evidence regarding, I think my question was with regard to James' appointment. How did that come about?
Yes, my lord. As I indicated earlier, the appointment of James Atekulipi as a chairperson, he was appointed by the former Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Mr. Bernard Esau. I am not a lawyer by profession, but my little understanding of how the chairperson should be appointed.
Yes, just testify based on the facts that are there as to how the appointment should take place. Who should appoint
The appointment
the chairperson?
took place in terms of Section 6, subsection 4 of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Act, which provides that the chairperson have to be appointed by the directors.
Okay. Insofar as this case is concerned, have you collected documentary and other evidence regarding the appointment of these parties, the applicant?
Yes, I have collected the documents during the course of the investigation.
Okay. Do you have those documents with you?
Yes.
Your Lordship, at this stage, the state request to refer to the Fishco file that we have been dealing with since last year. I think all parties should have that file. It's the thicker.
The Deloitte file.
No, Your Lordship. It's the state's bundle of exhibits.
The state's bundle.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Yes.
I'd request for this bundle to be marked as Exhibit Z. I think we're at XY. We're at Exhibit Z now.
The whole bundle.
We'll mark them as Z1 as we go along as we did with the other, okay. Your Lordship.
Okay.
But for the file itself, just for reference purposes.
Okay.
All right. On the first page of that bundle, what do you have there?
Let me just check, because Mr. Sony was not part of. Just let's make sure, because what I'm seeing, when I look at the thickness of my file and the thickness of the file that he has, I doubt whether he has the correct file.
I'm indebted for your Lordship's concern, my Lord. As I understand it, the files I've been given, the file have been given has been divided into two. So it's file 1 and file 2, but I hope it is the same file. But I did check and I understand it is the same file.
I was just worried my file is so thick, yours looks so thin. All right?
Thank you, Your Lordship. All right. On the first page of that document, what is depicted there?
What is depicted on the first page is a message from cell phone number plus.
Okay. Your Lordship, we want to avoid reading some of the numbers. Perhaps you can just indicate this document. Fine, there is a cell phone number there. This particular document, where was it sourced from?
The documents was retrieved from the cell phone device of Mr. Saki Shangala. And the message, it reads as follows.
Okay, no, just hold on. Now, insofar as the numbers that is indicated there, whose number is that? Was it established? The cell phone number?
It was established that this is the cell phone that Mr. Saki Shangala was used at the time.
Okay. And this message was, yes, what was that message?
Okay, this message is a message that was sent on the 28th of July 2013, reading, Comrade Minister, I think the right candidate for the Fish Corps chairman is James Hatuikulipi. Chairmanship is James Hatuikulipi. He is a finance person and is a businessman. He can serve his country and he has capacity to control Anna Erastus as chairperson.
Okay. Your Lordship, there's a request for this to be marked as Z1, not Y. All right, at the next page, what is depicted there?
The next page is a letter from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, Office of the Minister, dated the 7th of May 2014, directed to Mr. James Nependa Hatuikulipi, with the address 21B, Joseph Mukwayu Ithana Street, Ludwigsdorf, Windhoek, Namibia. And it reads as follows. Dear Mr. Hatuikulipi, appointment as a chairperson of board of directors, National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, Fishcorp. I am pleased to inform you that I have appointed you as a chairperson of Board of Directors of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia in accordance with the National Corporation of Namibia Act number 28 of 1991, Clause 6 and Clause 15, 5 of the State-Owned Enterprises Governance Act number 2 of 2006 as amended in 2008. Your appointment is valid for a period of 3 years commencing 1st May 2014 to 30 April 2017. I have confidence in your abilities and I am convinced that you will make valuable and tangible contributions to Fishcorp. Let me take this opportunity to thank you and wish you all the best during your time of tenure. I will appreciate to receive your acceptance letter of appointment by the 12th May 2014. Thanking you in advance for your support. Yours sincerely, Bernard Esau, MP, Minister.
All right, and in respect of this particular document, where did you receive this document?
This document was received from Fishcorp.
All right. And what is the document at the next page?
The document on the next page, is a letter from the Office of the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, dated 10th July 2017, directed to Mr. James Nependa Hatuikulipi, with the subject appointment as chairperson of Board of Directors, National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, Fishcorp. And it reads, I am pleased to appoint you as the chairperson of the Board of Directors of the National Fishing Corporation, Fishcorp, in terms of Section 6, subsection 6B of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, Act 1991, Act number 28 of 1991, and Section 15B, Section 15, subsection 5B of the State-Owned Enterprises Governance Act 2006, Act number 2 of 2006, for a period of 3 years commencing from 1st May 2017 to 30th April 2020. In addition to provisions in Act number 28 of 1991, this appointment is also subject to the following conditions. Your fulfillment of conditions as outlined in State-Owned Enterprises Governance Act 2006, Act number 2 of 2006 as amended in Public Enterprises Governance Amendment Act 2015, Act number 8 of 2015 including your signing of a performance agreement in terms of Section 18, subsection 2 of this Act, Act number 2 of 2006. In performance of your responsibilities under this appointment, you shall at all times be guided by the provisions in these 3 acts. To facilitate the next steps on this appointment, kindly confirm your acceptance or otherwise in writing within the next 5 working days from the date of this letter.
Okay. And was the letter signed?
Yes, the letter was signed by Mr. Bernard Esau, MP, Minister.
Okay. And the source of this document?
This document was also obtained from Fishcorp.
Right. Your Lordship, there's a request for the 2 letters, one of 7 May 2014 and the one of 10 July 2017 to be marked as exhibits.
Z2 Roman 1 and Z2 Roman 2.
All right. Now, from your investigations, there's an indication in terms of those 2 letters that he was appointed furthermore under the Fiscal Act and under the State-Owned Enterprises Act. Have you investigated whether he could appoint under Section 15 of the State-Owned Enterprises Act?
Yeah, we have investigated, and our findings in the investigation is that in terms of the State-Owned Enterprises Governance Act, after it was amended, this section that is indicated in the appointment letter could not be implemented, as by this time this amendment was not yet gazetted.
All right.
So it was not applicable in this appointment.
Okay, so you referred to an amendment to which act?
To the State-Owned Enterprises Governance Act.
Okay. Your Lordship, the act is not numbered itself.
The act, I don't need it as an exhibit. It's a
No, it's not. It's judicial notice. but I just want to ask him a question with regard to the Act and further investigations conducted therefrom. I just want him to refer to it and any investigations that emanated from the
No,
provisions.
no, ask. You don't my permission. You don't need my permission to ask questions.
As it pleasure, Court, Your Lordship. There's a copy of it at the end of that bundle. It's the last 3 pages. Mr. Kanyangela, can you please just go to the last 3 pages? There's an amendment to the State-Owned Enterprises Government's Amendment Act.
Yes, I'm there.
All right. I think just read to us the provisions of Section 1, and then I'll ask you further questions from that regarding your investigations.
Okay, Section 1.
Start from where it says amendment. Just-
Amendment of Section 15 of Act Number 2 of 2006. Then Section 1. Section 15 of the State-Owned Enterprises Governance Act 2006, hereafter referred to as the Principal Act, is amended by the substitution in subsection 1 for the words preceding paragraph A of the following words, with effect from a date to be specified by the Prime Minister by notice in the Gazette.
Yeah, okay. From your investigations, has there been any notice by the Prime Minister in the Gazette for the effective?
There was no any notice.
All right. Okay. Is there anything else you want on that? All right. And you also referred to the appointment of Mr. Ngipunya. Can you just give us the facts surrounding the appointment of Mr. Ngipunya? What did you uncover through your investigations?
Okay, with regard to Mr. Mike Ngipunya, his appointment started when he was seconded from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources to Fishco. His secondment was done, and when he went to start working at Fishco, approval was not yet obtained from the Public Service Commission for his secondment. By that time, when he was seconded to lead Fishco, Mr. Mike Ngipunya was an economist at the ministry. Which is a very low position to compare to the position he was seconded to. I can say by this time he was not having managerial experience to manage such an institution.
From your investigations, were any interviews conducted for that position?
The secondment, there was no any interview conducted to be seconded. And why in the acting capacity? He was now afterwards appointed as a Chief Executive Officer, appointed by Mr. James Atuikulipi on the recommendation of the Board of Directors. Such position was never advertised. As per the provision of Section 28 of the National Fishing, Section 6, subsection 5 of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Act 28 of 1991. The provision is that the Chief Executive Officer can be appointed by the directors among themselves, or the Chief Executive Officer can come from the group of the directors of the board, or a person can come from external. And as far as I know, if the person have to come from external, the positions have to be advertised, interview have to be conducted, then the suitable candidate can be appointed. But in this, there was no such procedure taken. That's why I say his appointment was also not procedurally done.
All right. If you can take us to page 4 of the bundle that we have before us, can you identify that document and the source of that document?
This document is an email, and it's one of the documents that came from the office of the district prosecutor in Iceland. And this email was from James Atuikulipi, dated 8 May 2014, to Johannes Stephenson, Thompson, and Saki Shahnala, with the subject appointment letter. Attachment James.pdf ATT 00001.hotmail. Then it says FYE, see below, sent from iPad. Then down in the middle is an email from the Ndomwenyo Share, dated 7 May 2014, sent to james.hatuikulipi@gmail.com and to jimo6@mac.com with the subject appointment letter. Then it said, "Dear James, the appended is for your attention. Regards, Ms. Ndomwenyo Share, PA to the Minister, Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources."
Okay. And what were the attachments to this letter?
The attachment to this letter, to this email, was an appointment letter.
Okay. Whose appointment letter?
The appointment letter of Mr. James Nependa Hatuikulipi.
All right. And what is at page 5 of that document?
Page 5 is a letter from the Office of the Minister, Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, dated 7 May 2014, directed to Mr. James Nependa Hatuikulipi, with the subject appointment as a chairperson of board of directors, National Fishing Corporation of Namibia,
Okay.
Fishrot.
This is the appointment letter that you referred to earlier on, the one of 7 May 2014, signed by Mr. Esau.
That's correct.
All right, this was the attachment to this email.
That's correct.
All right. Your Lordship, there's a request for the email and the attachment, the letter to be marked as an exhibit.
Exhibit Z3.
Still at exhibits, that's 3. I just want to find out from you. There's Mr. James has been appointed by Mr. Bernard Esau, and this letter has been forwarded to Mr. Johannes Stephenson, Temsen, Saki Shangala. Who's the Temsen that is referred to there?
Is Thompson Hatuikulipi, who is a son-in-law to Mr. Bernard Esau,
Oh, okay.
and also a cousin to James Hatuikulipi.
Oh, okay. All right. And then, if you can take us to page 6 of that document, what is depicted there and the source of that document?
Okay, this document was received from the Office of the District Prosecutor in Iceland. It's an email. There is no indication as to where it came from, but it was sent on 8 May 2014 to James Hatuikulipi, Thompson, and Saki Shangala. And the subject is appointment letter. Then the content: Hi James, well done, congratulations. There is an exciting time ahead, but challenging. Do not hesitate to let me know if there is anything you need from my side now. Best regards, Johannes.
All right. And then at the bottom, the email, it indicates where it came from. Okay, I think just read for us what is under that.
This other part is similar to the content of the email on page 4.
All right. Your Lordship, there's a request for this email to be marked as an exhibit.
Exhibit Z4.
As it plays a court. All right. Can you go to page 8 of that document?
Page 8 is a document which is a legislation memorandum to cabinet from the Office of the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, dated 14 April 2015.
Oh, okay. Before you testify on this particular document, can you just give us a background from your factual findings as to what led to these documents being drafted?
What led to this document to be drafted is that Before, or as from 2010 to 2014, the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources was not having any power to give fishing rights to non-fishing right holders. He can only allocate quotas or give quotas to the right holders for fishing and not to the non-right holders. And that is what led to this drafting of this document. During that period, there were some companies of which their quotas were cut, and those quotas, I think if I can remember, Ueitele Fishing was one of them, as well as NAMSOF. Their quotas were cut and given to the non-right holders, companies. Then NAMSOF they register a case with the High Court with regarding to this allocation.
Okay. Do you recall any of those non-right holders in this case?
I can recall Lalandi Holdings, I think so far I can only recall that one.
Oh, okay. All right. No, it's fine. Please proceed.
May the witness repeat the answer so that we can...
Lalandi Holdings.
Lalami. Thank you, my lord.
Okay. No, it's fine. Proceed. You spoke about a case.
Okay, the proceedings went on in the court, in the High Court. A judgment was done on the case, and it was ordered that the allocating or the awarding of fishing quota to the non-right holders that the minister, Mr. Bernard Essa, was allocating was unlawful. Hence, after that is when this document was drafted and submitted to the cabinet.
All right. Going back to page 8 and 9 of this document, who signed that document?
This document was signed by Bernard Esau, MP, Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Okay. Can you just take us through that document?
Okay, the document, this first document was obtained from Ministry of Fisheries. The subject of this document is read as follows. Request for permission in principle for the introduction of the amendments to the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Act 1991, Act number 28 of 1991. Then the background, 2.1, the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Act 1991 provides for the establishment of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, a company with the object of exploiting fish and other marine resources, and promoting the establishment, development, and efficiency of other business engaged in the fishing industry, and provides for the matters incidental thereto. 2.2, it reads, there is a need to amend the law to reflect and be in line with governmental objectives and policy on the utilization of resources and the discretion to allocate such resource. There are 2.2s. Okay, then the next paragraph, the envisaged amendment will provide for the right of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia to apply for the allocation of a portion of the total allowable cash at any time during any period and for matters incidental thereto. This amendment will ensure the participation of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia in the total allowable catch of any marine resources without holding a right, as contemplated by the Marine Resource Act 2000, Act number 27 of 2000, to carry out its functions in terms of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Act 1991.
Okay, you can stop there. Your Lordship, the state also requests for this document to be submitted as an exhibit.
Letter on legislation.
Yes, Your Lordship.
Exhibit Z5.
As it plays a court. If you move on to page 10, can you tell us what is that document and the source of that document?
Okay, the source of this document, it is obtained from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, which is a legislation memorandum to Cabinet dated 14 April 2015, with the subject request for permission in principle for the introduction of the amendments to the Marine Resource Act 2000, Act number 27 of 2000. Then the background, 2.1.
All right, you can just start with the relevant portions from 2.2.
Okay, 2.2 read as follows. Having regard to the current provisions of the Marine Resource Act 2000, and following the decision of the High Court of Namibia in the matter of NAMSOF Fishing Enterprises and another, versus the Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources, and 14 others, case number A241/2014, which declared that quotas allocated in terms of the Marine Resource Act 2000 cannot in law be allocated to non-right holders. The Ministry views it necessary to provide for such allocation in law.
Please proceed.
In addition to the above, there is a need to amend the law to reflect governmental policy and objectives of the use of resources for poverty alleviation and other social programs. Amendment to the Act is required to allow the Minister some leeway, particularly with regarding to situations such as where there is need for bailing out ailing sectors of the fishing industry, where sometimes there might be low resources that may lead to job losses.
Okay, and 2.4.
The 2.4, the envisaged amendment will provide for the exercise of sovereign rights of the state for the purpose of exploring and exploiting marine resources, and further control over marine resources in accordance with provisions of the United Nations Convention on the Law of Sea of 10 December 1982, UNCLOS, of which Namibia is a party, and for matters incidental thereto.
All right. And was that document signed?
Yes, the document was signed by Bernard Esau, MP, Minister of Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Oh, okay. Your Lordship, the state also requests for the legislation memorandum to cabinet to be submitted as an exhibit.
Exhibit Z6. Yes, exhibit Z6.
Yes, Your Lordship. All right. If you can take us to page 12. Can you identify that document and the source of that document?
The document was sourced from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources. It's the agenda memorandum to cabinet dated November 4th, 2015, with the subject Implementation of Marine Resource Amendment Act 2015, Act number 9 of 2015, Governmental Objective and Designation of Entity.
All right. At the end of that document at page 19, was that document signed?
Yes, the document was signed by Bernard Esau, MP Minister, on the 4th of November 2015.
Okay. All right. Take us through the first page of that document. Objective.
The objective 1.1, to obtain cabinet direction for the determination of governmental objectives to benefit from the harvesting of marine resources. And 1.3, there's no 1.2.
Yes.
To obtain cabinet approval for the designation of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, LTD, as the entity to harvest on behalf of the state and to monetize for the state's utilization harvested marine resources towards the determined governmental objectives.
All right. And then the next page, what is the heading there?
The heading, it says background and discussion.
All right. Can you take us to paragraph 2.1.3?
Paragraph 2.1.3, it reads, previously, the state could only issue rights to harvest marine resources and license vessels of right holders. And notwithstanding, the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia, which is a 100% government wholly owned entity, which came about as a result of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Act 1991, Act number 28 of 1991, and which had for years been mismanaged. Government's objectives of owning company that would harvest and utilize the marine resources has been a challenge. During 2.1.4, during the tenure of my predecessor, the late Dr. Abraham Yambo, the National Fish Consumption Trust was launched with the objective of encouraging the consumption of marine and fish products by our populace, which is by and large a red meat eating society. The Namibia Fish Consumption Trust is not a title holder. And through the years...
It's right, not tight. The Namibia Fishing Commission is not a right holder, not tight holder.
Thank you, my lord. The Namibia Fish Consumption Trust is not a right holder. And through the years, the Namibian Fish Consumption Trust was issued with quota. And it in turn approached entities such as NAMSOF to harvest such on commercial terms in return for capital and or fish product. 2.1.5, during the period of drought, under direction of the President, the Minister has been able to utilize quota from unallocated portions of the total allowable catch, TAC, to be harvested by right holders so that high protein marine resources can be made available to assist with the affected communities. The same has been done where Namibia seeks to assist SADC sister countries during incidents of calamities such as flooding.
Okay.
Then on next page, paragraph 2.1.6. However, when the government has attempted to utilize the marine resources with the facilitation of right holders, government could never control the price at which such would be rendered. For many, now obvious reasons, Fishcall was not commercially run, despite it being the recipient of the second highest whitefish quota allocations, second only to Pescanova.
All right. You can take us to the next page, page 15, at paragraph 2.2.6.
Paragraph 2.2.6, the objectives are governmental objectives in the public interest, including social, economic, cultural, and other the minister may determine on the direction of the cabinet.
Okay. Next page.
In the past, the minister has determined the objectives of Namibia Fish Consumption Trust as relevant of quota allocation. Governmental efforts to alleviate the effects of the drought have been another. The object of ensuring that veterans of the liberation struggle are taken care of through the Ministry of Veteran Affairs has been another. These are categorized as non-commercial harvest quota objectives.
Okay. And the next page, paragraph 2.3.
Paragraph 2.3 is a proposal for determination of governmental objectives under section 3, subsection 3 of the Marine Resource Act 2000. Then 2.3.1, as indicated under paragraph 2.2.5 to 2.2.10, the minister under the direction of the cabinet might determine the social, economic, cultural, or other governmental objective in the public interest to benefit from the harvesting of marine resources to utilize towards the advancement of such an objective. 2.3.2, further as indicated above, the minister has previously benefited the Roman 1, Namibia Fish Consumption Trust objectives, Roman 2, government drought relief programs, and Roman 3, veterans of the liberation struggle projects. Then, next page, paragraph 2.3.3. In addition to the above, it is suggested that the state presidential objectives, the stated presidential objects of poverty eradication, primarily driven by the Ministry of Poverty Eradication, spearheaded by the inaugural Minister, Honorable Bishop Zevania Kameta, MP, be benefited directly from the allocation of a quota of an appropriate fishery to be determined by the Minister in this regard. 2.4, proposal for designation to harvest marine resources on behalf of the state under Section 3, Subsection 3 of the Marine Resource Act 2000. 2.4.1, consequent to the determination of governmental objectives in the public interest that would benefit from the harvesting of marine resources, the Minister, on direction from the Cabinet, must determine the entity through which the identified marine resource will be harvested. 2.4.2, given the confidence building turnaround of the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Ltd by the current Board of Directors and Acting Chief Executive Officer, who is on loan from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources, an economist from the Department Policy, Planning and Economics, it is suggested that the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Ltd be the designated entity to harvest on behalf of the state and to monetize for the state's utilization harvested marine resources towards the determined governmental objectives. Then number 3 is recommendations. It is recommended that 3.1, Cabinet directs that the objectives stated in paragraph 2.3.2 and 2.3.3, namely Roman 1, Namibia Fish Consumption Trust objectives, Roman 2, Government Drought Relief Programs, Roman 3, Veterans of the Liberation Struggle projects, Roman 4, Poverty Eradication via the ministry responsible, Roman 5, Stability in the fishing sector, bailouts, employment security, vulnerable economic situation, example leaders, policy achievement incentives, and Roman 6, Namibia Fishing Industry Employee, Welfare Stabilization Trust Fund, be determined as the governmental objectives in the public interest. From time to time, that will benefit from the direct allocation of marine resources. 3.2, Cabinet directs that the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Ltd be the designated entity to harvest on behalf of the state and to monetize for the state's utilization harvested marine resources towards the determined governmental objectives.
All right, and the financial implication, just 4.1.
4.1, government is expected to generate revenue from the resources rent, quota fees, through the designated entity.
Oh, okay. Your Lordship, the study request for this document, agenda memorandum to Cabinet, to be submitted as an exhibit. I think it should be Z7.
Exhibit Z7. You indicated that where did you get this document?
The document, we get it from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Yes.
All right. What is depicted at the next page?
On the next page, page 20, what is depicted is the designation agreement between Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources and the National Fishing Corporation of Namibia Limited.
And the source of the document?
The document was obtained from the Ministry of Fisheries and Marine Resources.
Mr. Hira.
Yes, you can proceed.
All right, and at page 28 of this document, was this document signed?
Yes, the document was signed
Who signed?
on the 18th day of November 2015, signed by Honorable Mr. Bernard Esau, MP, the Minister, and signed by Mr. James Hatuikulipi on the 8th of December 2015, witnessed by Mr. Mike Nhipunyu.
Oh, okay. And if you could just take us to page 24, what was the scope of that agreement?
Page 20.
4.
The scope of the agreement. This agreement shall form the basis of the designation anticipated under Section 3 of the Marine Resource Act, through which the state shall utilize or harvest marine resources within Namibia's exclusive economic zone and its territorial waters to advance any social, economic, cultural, or other governmental objectives in the public interest.
Okay, and the designation, just 3.1 and 3.2.
3.1, the minister hereby designates the corporation and its subsidiaries on the direction of Cabinet of the Republic of Namibia under Section 3, subsection 3 of the Marine Act to, on behalf of the state, harvest for the state and to utilize the harvest marine resources towards social, economic, cultural, or other governmental objectives in public interest designation. Then
Okay.
3.2, the corporation accepts such designation and shall fulfill the objectives as directed by the minister from time to time.
All right, thank you. Your Lordship, the request for the designation agreement to be submitted as an exhibit.
It was also obtained from the Ministry of Fisheries. Or what did you say?
That's correct, my lord.
Exhibit Z8.
As it is a court.
I'm just trying to check. Was it not handed in during Mr. Hipunya's testimony? Yes, I'm
No,
trying.
from my recollection, I think that should be a different designation agreement.
Sorry?
It should be a different designation agreement. I don't think they're exactly the same.
Which one?
There should be one which is an exhibit. I think it's Exhibit D. Exhibit D.
Oh, okay. No, Exhibit B is the cooperation and designation agreements between, it's cooperation and designation agreements.
Yes, Your
This one is a designation,
Designation.
agreement, so
Yes.
it's different documents.
Yes, Your Lordship. I see it's, I think, lunchtime. I think this is the appropriate time to adjourn with leave of the court.
All right. Go to rise.
All right.